If you are new to tuning, watch this video with your parents. Tuning takes practice, so don't worry if you need to watch this video several times. And make sure to watch the video all the way to the end before you start tuning your instrument. Instruments need to be tuned every day. If you are careful with your instrument, you may only need to make small adjustments. But if your instrument is new to you, there's what's called a breaking in period, where you may have to tune your instrument a lot for several days, sometimes a week or 2 weeks, until your instrument settles. And then you'll only have to make small adjustments if you're careful with your instrument. These are the fine tuners. These are what you use for everyday tuning. Your instrument probably has 4 of them, while mine only has 1. They make small or fine adjustments. These are the pegs. These make large adjustments. Make sure, if you've never tuned before, let your parents use the pegs if you need to. Why would you need to use the pegs? Well, maybe your fine tuners have been adjusted so far that you can't move them any further. So you will need to loosen the fine tuners and then make the adjustment with the pegs. Another reason you may have to use your pegs, or maybe your instrument's so far out of tune that your strings are really wobbly and loose, and you would have to make the adjustment with the pegs to get the pitch close. When tuning with the fine tuners, remember, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Right, tight will make the pitch go higher. Left, loose will make the pitch go lower. When tuning with the pegs, you usually want to hold the instrument so that the strings are facing you. If you turn the peg towards you, it will loosen the string and make the pitch go lower. If you tune the peg away from you, it will make the pitch go higher and tighten the string. Now remember, when you use the pegs, a little goes a long way. Think about adjusting them in millimeters. Most of our pegs are called friction pegs. That means the only thing that's holding them in place is the friction between the peg and the instrument. So when you turn them, you also have to push in to make sure that the peg sticks. So I usually have one hand on the body of the instrument and the other hand on the peg. I will play the pitch so I can hear how much I'm adjusting. And as I'm moving the peg, I'm also pushing in. So I'm creating equal pressure of this hand pushing towards my other hand as this hand pushes towards this hand to create that friction. It doesn't take a lot of pressure, but it takes enough to make sure that that peg sticks. The bass doesn't have fine tuners on the tailpiece like the violin, viola, and cello. They have fine tuners up where the pegs should be. So these usually are called gears or machine heads. They work the same way. If the instrument is facing you with the strings, it is still lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. However, it is backwards if this instrument is facing away from you. So sometimes that can be tricky because eventually you are going to be tuning it with the instrument facing away. But by the time you do that, you'll probably have a pretty good grip on tuning your instrument. There are several free tuners on the App Store. You just have to search for violin tuner. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to find a viola tuner or a cello tuner, they're all the same. So we're going to start with this one, and this is what it looks like in the App Store. So let me open it up, and here's what it actually looks like. So we do have a button that if we push this button, it will actually play the pitch. And eventually you will be matching pitches, but when we first learn to tune, we're going to use the tuning fork, which listens to you and tells you what pitch you're playing. So you'll notice it's going to start moving around when I talk because our voices have pitch. A couple things you want to look for. First of all, this number 440. Okay, that's our calibration pitch that we tune to in America. So you always want to make sure it says 440. And if it doesn't, that's what these plus minus signs are for. So you can change the calibration, but we want to tune to 440. The next thing you'll notice is that it tells you what pitch it's hearing. So you want to make sure that you're tuning to your string. So if you're tuning to your A string, make sure it says A, not A sharp or A flat, but just plain old A. Then we have some lights and a needle, and the lights and the needle are doing the same thing. You want the needle to be on 0 and the green light to be on. That means your string's in tune. If the needle or the light on the left is on, your instrument is too low, it's flat, so you're going to have to turn the pitch up, which is righty-tighty. If the needle is too far on the right, or this light is on, the pitch is too high, you're going to have to turn it down, or lefty-loosey. So let's see what it sounds like when I play an instrument along with it. So here's a viola, and let's see what happens when I pluck my A string. So it's telling me that it's hearing an A, which is great because that's what I want to be playing. And now it's showing me that the needle is slightly to the left, so I'm a little low. So I want to turn my fine tuner righty-tighty just a little bit. And now I'm a little high, so I need to go the other way and turn it down a little bit. And now the needle's on 0, so I know I'm in tune. There are also some physical tuners that you can buy that we call clip-on tuners. Here are a couple examples that I have. So they have a little clip that you can adjust them and set them on your instrument. Now, these are really cool because they sense the vibration of the pitch that you're playing, not the sound that you're making. So if you're in a noisy environment, it won't affect your tuning. And they work in the same way. They'll have lights and needles that will show you whether you're too low or you're too high. But these don't read sound, they read the vibration of the sound to tune. Here's the cello. The strings for the cello are the A, D, G, and C. Make sure you follow the strings up to the peg box to see which strings are assigned to which pegs. Your outer strings are going to be on your low pegs, and your inner strings go to the higher pegs. Your lower strings are on the pegs on this side of the instrument, and your higher strings are on the pegs on this side of the instrument. So now let's tune our cello. I have it sitting on my knees so you can see me adjust the fine tuners. You don't need to set your cello on your knee when you tune. You can keep it on the floor. So again, I'm going to have the strings facing me so I can adjust the fine tuners easily. So let's start with our A string and see what the tuner says. So the tuner's telling me that I'm slightly sharp because the needle is on the right-hand side. So that means I'm going to loosen the string, so I'm going to take the fine tuner and go lefty-loosey. And that needle is pretty close. It's maybe one line away, but that's close enough for me. Now let's see what our D string says. So the needle is showing me that it's to the left. That means the string is too low. I need to raise it. So with my D fine tuner, I'm going to go righty-tighty. And there we're on 0. So now let's go over to the G string. And that one is in tune. I don't have to adjust that. You may not have to adjust your instrument every day, but we do need to check it every day. And finally, let's move over to our C string. And that's pretty close. It's showing me that I'm a little sharp. I'm a little on the right-hand side, so I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, so lefty-loosey. And you may notice sometimes with your tuners, it has a hard time picking up the lower strings. And it picked it up well the first time, but now it's having trouble. Okay, I'm still a little high. And the tuner's having trouble hearing me. There we go, now I'm right on 0. So now my instrument's in tune.